Today's video is about introverts in the world, and I am definitely included in that world. I am an introvert. However, when most people meet me, the last thing they think I am is an introvert. If you watched how I behave at gatherings of large groups of people, you'll have no problem knowing that I really am an introvert. In fact, when I'm in a large group, I just want to find a corner to read a book on. Does that sound familiar to you? If it does, there's a pretty good chance that you're an introvert. The question that I've got is how can introverts participate in the world and not just hide? And that's the topic of today's video. The first thing you have to know is that you have to be brave. You have to step out. I'm known a lot of times for doing some pretty foolish things in front of other folks. And what I've learned during that whole period of time, it's really never hurt that much when I've stepped out, when I've tried to show who I am and where I am. But most of the time I don't. And the reason is I'm afraid. So if you're afraid of stepping out, I'm going to ask you to just try a little experiment. Just once, step out and see what happens. I bet you're going to find out that if you fall on your face, it really doesn't hurt that much. In fact, you'll probably get up and be just fine. The second thing I've noticed that most introverts never want to be noticed. But is that really true? Most of us really want to be noticed and we want to be validated for doing good things. But if you're an introvert, you might not want to be noticed because you don't want to be told that you're doing something wrong. And if you're not out in the open, it's hard for somebody to criticize you when you're just sort of fading back into the corner. Well, the truth is, sometimes you have to fade back in the corner because that's a really good place to be. It's where you get a chance to do some deep thinking. But at the same time, you have to be willing to step out from time to time and be noticed, because otherwise, all that great deep thinking you're doing is just for yourself, and it's really not doing anybody else any good whatsoever. That's especially true if you happen to own a business. The third thing is when you stand out, and I've already mentioned this, you can look kind of foolish. It doesn't really hurt that much, and here's what I've learned over the years. Stepping out and making a mistake in public, it's a little bit painful at the thing, but the lessons are really, really way more than worth it than not stepping out. Number 4, and this is something I think is a big issue for a lot of introverts. You don't want to stand out because you don't want to be seen as a braggart. Well, one thing is, if you step out and you focus on others, it's pretty hard for people to see you as a braggart when you're asking other people questions and drawing them into your world and into conversations with you. Isn't that something that would be fun to do? I know me as an introvert, I love having in-depth, really big conversations with small groups of people. But the problem I have is walking up to somebody I don't know very well and start talking with them and being really curious about who they are, because I'm just shy and I don't want to be shunned. And I think that's true for a lot of us. So when I do my story and I'm talking in front of a group of people, what I used to do, I used to get up and, if I'm making a presentation, talk about all the wonderful things I've done. And frankly, I have a lot of stuff in my life I've been really pretty proud of and I'm happy to talk about. Except it does nothing about helping people identify with who you are and the mistakes that they made in their life. About 3 years ago, when I opened up my conversation, I don't talk about all the good things I do. I talk about all the terrible things I've done in my life, all the terrible mistakes I've made in my life, and the things I've learned about it, and why it has me so excited and so enthused about helping blue-collar private business owners. Now, when I've done that and I made that change, it made me move from being in the braggart space into the curious space, and I'd be seen more as a humanizing person, and people can identify with me more easily. The fifth thing is, you're afraid you don't have anything to add to the conversation. Come on, that is so silly. We're all experts at stuff, and when you step out, you learn more because you get into conversations, you get a chance to listen to people more deeply, but you have to put yourself in that position to have that conversation. And that's especially true when you're working in your business. It's especially true with your customers, and it's especially true with your suppliers, and it's even true with your employees. Now, the sixth thing is, and I think this is a really cool thing, is that introverts are often very thoughtful and curious. We need this type of behavior today. We need to be adding to the conversation and not just keeping our thoughts to ourselves. Being thoughtful adds tons of value to any conversation because we can say, gee, I wonder what would happen if this happened, or what would happen if. We tend to be more curious, and when you add curiosity to the conversation, everybody wins. So here are 3 reasons to stand out that might be like. You might be thought as a thought leader. Now, when you want to be seen as a thought leader, if you step out, there's a pretty good chance you're going to take that expertise, that deep learning that you've done over the years, and when you interact with other people, they're going to say, gee, this guy knows pretty much what they're talking about. Maybe I should have more conversation with them. You might even get a chance to join groups that weren't open to you before because they didn't know who you were. If you're not willing to step out and talk about what's going on with you, you're missing the opportunity to get into masterminds and peer-to-peers and conversations with other folks who could help you move what you want to do in your life and your business forward. And the third thing here is, it's nice to be recognized for the things you know. We're all experts in our own area, and it's really nice to be recognized for the things that we know and the expertise that we have. So I have a question for you. Are you willing to step out? Are you willing to be seen as a thought leader? And are you willing to sometimes look a little foolish in public? I bet if you do any of these things, you're going to be richly rewarded. So why don't you scroll down, leave me a comment below about what you think about being an introvert or what you think about working with introverts. And while you're at it, download our values cheat sheet. You'll learn how to establish values in your company in a couple of easy steps. Hey, this is Josh Patrick. You're at The Sustainable Business. Thanks a lot for stopping by. I hope to see you back here really soon.